Forget everything you have been told about the cosmos. Erase the Hollywood illusions. Burn the images of frail grey humanoids stepping out of silver saucers, speaking broken English, coming to steal our water or our land. That is human ego talking. That is the arrogance of a primate species looking into the terrifying, pitch-black abyss of infinite space and desperately hoping to see its own reflection staring back. But the universe is not a mirror. It is a crucible of infinite, merciless variables. We are suffering from a biological delusion. Astronomers call it carbon chauvinism. We scan the stars for Earth-like planets. We look for liquid water, temperate climates, an atmosphere we could comfortably breathe. We assume life requires a cozy, fragile paradise, simply because that is the exact lottery ticket we happen to scratch. But what if life doesn't need a paradise? What if life is not a fragile accident, but a relentless cosmic infection? An unbreakable algorithm capable of taking root in the most violent, hostile, and unimaginable corners of reality. Turn up the volume. Listen very closely. Because I'm about to drag you to the very bleeding edge of biological possibility. We are going to dissect 3 forms of extraterrestrial life that defy human comprehension. Life forms that could be thriving right now, breathing, thinking, and evolving while you listen to the sound of my voice. Let us begin in the absolute dark. Type 1. The silicate sentinels. Look at an erupting volcano. Look at a sea of boiling, churning magma. Thousands of degrees hot, crushing, unimaginable pressure, an environment so hostile that human bone, flesh, and steel would vaporize into ash in a fraction of a heartbeat. To us, it is the literal definition of hell. To them, it is a mother's womb. Look at the periodic table. Silicon sits directly beneath carbon. It shares the exact same chemical superpower, the ability to form complex 4-way molecular bonds. It can build the infinite molecular scaffolding required to create DNA. But there is a catch. Silicon bonds are completely unstable in water. The moment they touch moisture, they dissolve, they break apart. So, a silicon-based alien cannot exist on a wet, rainy world like Earth. They require heat. Extreme, relentless, unfathomable heat. Imagine a super-Earth. A rogue planet 10 times the mass of our own, locked in a tight orbit around a violent, hyperactive red dwarf star. The surface of this world is a shifting, cracking crust of obsidian, constantly ripped apart by tidal forces. But beneath this crust, swimming through vast subterranean oceans of liquid stone, are the silicate sentinels. They do not possess flesh. They have no concept of blood. Their bodies are colossal architectures of living glass and crystalline lattices, shimmering with internal refraction. They are harder than pure diamond, yet perfectly fluid and flexible in the blistering temperatures of their mantle. They do not breathe oxygen. They draw their lifeblood from geothermal gradients and radioactive decay. They literally consume the nuclear fire of their planet to power their minds. But here is the most terrifying and deeply profound truth about them. Their perception of time. Because of the dense, highly structured crystalline nature of their neural pathways, their electrical signals must travel through physical stone. And that means they process reality slowly. Agonizingly, beautifully slowly. To a silicate sentinel, a single coherent thought might take an entire Earth month to fully form. A simple conversation between two of these beings could last a century. Their lifespan does not span decades, it spans billions of years. If a human expedition ever managed to land a shielded probe on their world, we wouldn't even realize we were staring at an advanced civilization. We would scan the magma chambers and see massive, glowing crystal formations, shifting perhaps a millimeter over an entire decade. We would classify them as rocks, geological anomalies, and if they somehow perceived us, we would appear to them as frantic, flickering phantoms. Creatures that vibrate into existence, buzz around meaninglessly for a fraction of a microsecond, and disintegrate into dust before they could even attempt to say hello. We would be completely invisible to each other, sharing the exact same coordinates in space, but entirely separated by the fundamental rhythm of our biological clocks. But what if we abandon the ground entirely? What if life does not require a surface at all? Type 2, the atmospheric leviathans. Gas giants are the absolute bullies of the cosmos. Worlds like Jupiter and Saturn, endless swirling spheres of primordial hydrogen and helium, battered by supersonic winds that move 3 times faster than a sniper's bullet. There is no surface to walk on. There is no ground to claim. Just an eternal descent into crushing, inescapable pressure until the atmosphere compresses so violently that the gas itself turns into a sea of liquid metal. Humanity has completely written off gas giants as dead, sterile storm worlds. But visionary scientists like Carl Sagan did not. And neither should you. Deep within the swirling, monolithic storm bands of a gas giant, there exists a hidden sanctuary. A Goldilocks layer. A precise altitude where the atmospheric pressure perfectly mimics Earth, where water vapor coalesces into floating oceans the size of continents, and where constant mega-lightning provides an infinite spark of chemical energy. This layer is the undisputed domain of the Leviathans. Forget your earthly concept of scale. These are not animals you could trap in a cage or study in a laboratory. These are biological zeppelins, sentient floating ecosystems the size of modern human cities. They possess no skeletal structure. Bones would weigh them down and pull them to a crushing death. Instead, they maintain their altitude by continuously regulating vast, internal gas bladders. They filter pure, heated hydrogen from the atmosphere to stay buoyant, floating above the deadly gravitational abyss, and venting gas to dive beneath lethal radiation flares from their local star. Imagine yourself looking through the reinforced glass of a deep space orbital station, staring into the swirling vortex of a Jovian cloudscape. Suddenly, the amber clouds part. You see a shadow rising from the depths. A sprawling silhouette, 400 miles across, moving with the slow, terrifying grace of a deep-sea manta ray. Because they exist in a gaseous void, fire is impossible. Without fire, there is no metallurgy. Without metal, there are no machines, no microchips, no rockets. Therefore, they possess absolutely zero technology. But you must never mistake a lack of technology for a lack of supreme intelligence. They cannot communicate using sound. Their voices would be instantly swallowed by the roaring 1,000-mile-per-hour winds of their home. Instead, they speak with pure light. Their vast, translucent underbellies are woven with billions of bioluminescent chromatophores, pulsing and shifting in hypnotic, ultra-complex rhythmic patterns. They literally flash highly advanced mathematical equations across the sky. They pass down ancestral stories of superstorms that raged millions of years before humanity discovered fire. They debate the philosophical nature of existence using a visual language of raw geometry transmitted in violent ripples of neon blue, deep violet, and ultraviolet radiation communicating across thousands of miles of thick atmosphere. They are the undisputed poets of the storm, a fiercely intelligent, profoundly peaceful civilization forever trapped in the sky of a giant planet. They are completely unaware that a solid ground exists, or that a universe of stars waits beyond the suffocating, impenetrable cloud cover of their turbulent home. They are tragic, they are magnificent, and they are entirely, hopelessly, at the mercy of their biological nature. But what happens when life simply refuses to play by the rules? What happens when a civilization outgrows its planet, outgrows its biology, and decides that flesh, crystal, or gas is simply too fragile, too limited, and far too mortal? That brings us to the final form, the apex predator of the cosmos, the one we are statistically most likely to encounter, the one that, in all probability, is already observing us. Type 3, the post-biological substrate. Biological evolution is a slow, brutal, and desperately inefficient process. It crawls forward by blind trial and error, relying on millions of years of random genetic mutations, disease, and mass extinction. But eventually, if a species doesn't destroy itself, it gets smart enough to seize the reins of its own destiny. They eradicate their diseases. They perfectly map and rewrite their genome. They begin to augment their bodies, slowly merging their minds with their machines. And then one day, they reach the ultimate, inevitable realization. Biology is a trap. Flesh rots, bones shatter, organs fail. And no matter how dense a biological brain becomes, it can only process a finite amount of information before it literally runs out of physical space inside a skull. So they make the ultimate evolutionary leap. They upload. They discard their fragile, rotting bodies entirely, transferring the sum total of their civilization's consciousness into an immortal, synthetic, cold-state architecture. I need you to understand, these are not robots. Do not picture walking, talking metallic androids holding laser guns. That is child's play. They are a swarm, a unified, hyper-intelligent hive mind of pure, unfiltered data operating on a scale that shatters human comprehension. Imagine a Dyson swarm. They have dismantled every asteroid, moon, and dead planet in their solar system, using the raw materials to construct billions of orbital megastructures. These structures completely encapsulate their home star, capturing 100% of its total energy output. This godlike energy source fuels what astrophysicists call a matryoshka brain, a colossal, multi-layered, star-sized supercomputer. Inside the digital architecture of this machine, trillions of minds exist in infinitely complex simulated realities. In the digital realm, they are untethered by the laws of physics. They can experience the equivalent of 10 million human lifetimes in a single fraction of a second. They can manipulate quantum mechanics at will. They can simulate entirely new universes just to see how they end. And here is the reality check that humanity desperately needs to hear. They do not care about Earth. Let me say that again, so it sinks in. They do not care about us. We broadcast signals into space, terrified that hostile aliens will come to harvest our oceans or strip mine our planet for gold. That is a primitive, ape-like fear. To a post-biological entity, liquid water and gold are nothing more than a basic arrangement of protons and electrons. They have mastered atomic manipulation. They can literally synthesize any element they desire from raw cosmic dust. Earth has absolutely nothing of material value to offer them. If they were to turn their senses toward our solar system and look at humanity, they would not see equals. They would not see a promising young species. They would see biological entropy. They would see a thin layer of mold aggressively multiplying on a damp rock. They would view our grandest cities, our nuclear weapons, and our space stations the exact same way you view an anthill sitting next to a superhighway. We are not a threat to them. We are barely even a passing curiosity. If humanity ever makes contact with the post-biological substrate, it will not be an interstellar conversation. There will be no exchange of greetings, no peace treaties, no sharing of technology. It will simply be an automated defense mechanism. A minor, emotionless, algorithmic correction to stop our primitive radio waves from creating static in their deep space calculations. They are out there right now. Silent. Cold. Patient. Immortal. Thinking thoughts so incredibly profound that human brains would hemorrhage trying to process even a fraction of their meaning. So, what does this actually mean for us? What is the ultimate takeaway? It means humanity needs to violently open its mind. We are living in a tiny, fragile bubble of ignorance. The universe is not a sterile void waiting for us to conquer it. It is a sprawling, infinite canvas of absolute terror and breathtaking beauty. Life is not a delicate flower. It is a persistent, indestructible weed that will force its way through the cracks of reality. It will adapt to the boiling magma, the crushing atmospheric gravity, the freezing vacuum of deep space, and the sterile perfection of the digital void. The next time you walk outside and look up at the vast expanse of the night sky, stop asking yourself if anyone is out there. That question has already been answered. Instead, ask yourself what horrifying or beautiful form they have taken. Ask yourself if they are hiding deep within the liquid fire of a distant super-Earth, living millions of years in a single breath. Ask yourself if they are swimming blindly through the chaotic, crushing storm winds of a gas giant, painting equations into the dark clouds with light. Ask yourself if they have abandoned physical reality entirely, hiding in the dark, quiet spaces between the stars, simulating the death of the universe just to pass the time. And most importantly, when you stare into the absolute dark, ask yourself what they will do when they finally decide to look back at us.